Wednesday, April the 28th. Lake level is right at 9:15. It's probably not going to stay there very long. It is pouring out. We've had 2 inches, a little over 2.5 inches of rain in 30 minutes there a few hours ago, but I think we've had probably 5 or 6 inches of rain since last night. Lake's I'm sure it's gonna come up a bunch. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about what I was doing last week, and then some things that I think are gonna change with the water level coming up. But you know, the fish are spawning pretty good. The water's about 57 to about 60 degrees. And I've had some good days and some tougher days. Now I had a tougher day Monday up to James, the mid-James area. Then yesterday I fished down lake, and even this weekend, you know, the main things I've been catching fish on have been a split shot, a Ned rig, little underspins, little swim baits. Now on the underspin, seems like a little 3/16, a 1/4 ounce. It's been working good for me. This is a homemade one. But I like the little bit smaller one, and we're fishing these in spawning pockets, probably about 6 to 10 feet deep. And we're just kind of mixing it up with the underspin and a 5-fish lures ultimate Ned jig head. And I'm using several different Ned baits. You know, Z-Man bait will work good. I like the elastic stretches. But either green pumpkin, watermelon red, PBJ, or even that Bomber Cross seems to be working real good. And I've been using more 1/8 ounce and 3/16 ounce heads on that. Then in the same area, we're also fishing a split shot. Now, the green slime doesn't seem too bad in some areas of the lake. You know, it's not as bad as it was a few weeks ago. But on that split shot, I'm just taking a number 3 split shot, crimping it up there about 16 inches from the hook, and using either a 1/0 or a 2/0 worm hook, like a Zoom Fish Doctor, a green pumpkin, watermelon red, or centipede to work, or any real type, a small type finesse bait seems to be working. And I'm fishing all 3 of these in the same areas, around spawning areas. You know, a lot of beds are empty, but there's still more fish moving in. The lake had been coming up, you know, a little bit, not near like what it's going to come up the next day or 2. And my better fish have still been coming on a fluke. Whether it's this particular one here is a Strike King caffeine shad, but I've also been throwing a Zoom Super Fluke. But anything in a shad pattern seems to be working well. And I'm fishing this out on a little bit of the ledge rock banks, you know, where you can kind of see the shadows of the dark spots off of that ledge rock. The same area, there's so many baits you can throw out in them areas. You can also throw like a shaky head with either a Cinco on it or a Zoom trick worm. You can also throw a Cinco wacky rig style. There are so many fish up there shallow. There's different ways of catching them, but a lot of the ones that are spawning don't really seem to be in a real good active feed mode, so you got to finesse fish them. Another bite that's been getting stronger and stronger is Topwater. It's a day-to-day thing, but like yesterday where we had cloud cover all day, they were coming up throughout the day, and I was catching some of them on a walking bait, like Strike King Sexy Dog. Get these rods untangled here. Another bait, you know, like a jointed redfin or a Storm Thunder stick. This is one that Berkeley makes. It's been working real well. It's real similar. It's a knockoff from a Cordell redfin or Storm Thunder stick, except it's got a little bit of weight on the front of it. A lot of times the redfins, you have trouble getting them to walk good. This one works real good with the weight system that's in it. But like I say, a walking style bait will work as well. I'm still having to fish the topwater bait, you know, pretty slow. Now, as far as what I think is going to happen, I don't know. You know, this 5 to 10 foot range that we've been catching a lot of the split shot and Ned rig fish, a lot of those fish are probably going to stay in that depth. I don't know how much the lake is going to come up. So those fish probably won't move immediately to the bank. But there's going to be so much runoff coming into the lake. It's going to stain the water up. The lake's been really clear. I think the finesse style fishing will still work down lake because it'll take a week or so before any of that water starts to muddy up. Now, it'll take about 2 days for what's happening in Springfield for that water to get to the lake. So by the weekend, I'd say a lot of the river arms, like, you know, the Kings River where it comes into Shell Knob, James River where it hits the mouth of the White over there at Point 9. There's going to be a lot of stain in them areas. Depends how much it comes up. There's going to be a lot of bushes in the water. So, with that being said, I mean, I'm going to have a spinnerbait tied on. Another good search bait is a chatterbait. And I like to throw like a Z-Man chatterbait or even a Strike King cricket. I'm usually going to throw about a ½ ounce. And, you know, fish either a chartreuse and white or a black and blue. This particular one has got a fluke for a trailer. If I want a little bit more action or a little bit noise if the water's dirtier, I'll go with a bigger swim bait with a paddle tail. And the only drawback about a chatterbait is it's good in the open water, like over the top of some of the submerged brush, but it's not worth a darn when you get up around laydowns and thicker buckbrush. The bait seems to roll over and get stuck pretty easy. Excuse me. So if the water comes up pretty good and the water, you know, comes up about 3 foot, water starts getting in the bushes, a really good bait to pick up this a 5-fish lures ultimate cover jig. It's a really good swim jig. You know, it's good for flipping in docks because it's got a flat head. You can get several skips out of it. It's really good in heavy cover like the buckbrush and the timber, but it'll also work real good as a swim jig. And I like to throw a white, or depending on the color, I may go a black and blue. And a lot of times I'll just use a single swim bait as the trailer, or like a Zoom Speed Craw. I get a little bit more action with the twin legs. And, you know, I'll fish this just like a spinnerbait or a chatterbait. The good thing about it is I can let it drop in between some of the bushes. When that water's coming up like that, a person shouldn't have to flip the base of the bush. You should be able to just swim it, you know, in behind it, in around them to figure out what depth, you know, the fish are at. If the fish are, you know, higher in the water column and fairly shallow, the spinnerbait and chatterbait's probably going to work a little better. But if you got to get down a few feet, the jig is going to work a lot better because you won't fight getting it stuck. You know, even the spinnerbait, you drop it down in the real thick bushes and, you know, them willow trees and the buckbrush, it's going to be hung up quite a bit. So, you know, a lot of things are going to happen with that water coming in. The good thing, the ground is so warm that most all the water coming into the lake should be warmer than what's already there. So that's going to help, you know, raise the water temperature up. If you're back there fishing some of these creeks and it looks like, you know, solid mud, a lot of times just keep going back, because on the initial rain, like what we've had right now, you know, last night and today, a lot of the water that's coming in is going to be muddy, full of leaves, full of trash. But as more water comes in, it's going to push that out into the creeks, and the water coming in should be a little cleaner. So don't get discouraged if it looks like chocolate mud you're going up into a creek. Just keep going back up and a little further, and you should get some good, you know, cleaner looking water. But I really think this is going to help the fishing out. I don't know what it's going to do for the spawn. If, you know, if it comes up too much, it's probably not going to be good on them fish that have already got eggs laid. But as long as the sunlight can get through there and hatch them eggs out, it'll be okay. But hopefully the lake doesn't go too crazy. You know, it just comes up 3-4 feet would be ideal. Make the fishing really good, and it just open up a lot more options of baits to throw. Another thing that might come into play as well is a square bill out in front of the edge of the bushes and back in between them. But, you know, this next 3-4 days, I know we got a big high school event coming up this weekend. There'll be 700 kids out there fishing. So it's going to be a weekend for change for them, because whatever they learned last weekend practicing, A lot of that's probably gonna change, but like I was saying, them fish we've been catching on the finesse style baits, they're probably not gonna move. So if the lake comes up 3 or 4 feet, you're just gonna have to fish 3 or 4 feet deeper. They should stay in the same areas. In that water down, you know, Kimberling City to Baxter to Indian Point, all that water should stay pretty stable as far as water clarity, you know, for the next 5 or 6 days. Depends on how much the lake again comes up, how much water they move through the lake. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.